Webinar today, hosted by Talentia, and very pleased to be joined by Candela Medical to talk about how Candela Medical has improved its financial reporting with Talentia software. Should be a really interesting, informative session for you to understand what it takes to improve financial reporting with a real-life customer here to explain how they achieved it. Let me introduce the speakers for today. So here we are, introducing myself. My name is Richard Bavington. Very pleased to be hosting the session today. I'm the General Manager for Talentia here in North America. And my background is I've been working with financial systems for, dare I say, 25 years now, with large software providers, smaller software providers, but always around close, control, forecasting, budgeting, financial reporting. Very pleased to be with the Talentia team here today, presenting our solution and how Candela have implemented that. So that's myself. Delighted to have Roman Gankin join me today. Roman is a CPA, Global Corporate Assistant Controller with Candela Medical, based in the Boston area here. Roman is responsible for financial reporting amongst many other tasks at Candela Medical. And Roman has implemented the Talentia solution to help improve financial reporting, and delighted that Roman will be here today to talk us through their project, their goals, why did they need a system, what have they achieved, and how did the project go. So we'll be coming on to Roman's session shortly. And also introducing my colleague, Rolf Niederman. Rolf is also an accountant, but early on in his career, Rolf moved over to the systems side of things and has been working with clients to implement financial systems around close, consolidation, and reporting. So delighted to have Rolf with us today. Rolf will actually be taking us through the solution, giving us a live demonstration and a flavor of what it looks like, Talentia, overall, how it can address financial reporting needs like Candela, but also how it can be used for additional reporting processes like consolidation, budgeting, and planning as well. So we've got a great panel here, so excited to get going. So without further ado, let's look at the agenda for today. So I'm going to kick off just looking at some of the challenges that we see with our clients today. What are the challenges that finance teams face around financial reporting, and how can Talentia help? How can we add value to our clients? Then we're going to move over to Roman, who will take us through a case study of how Candela Medical have improved their financial reporting using Talentia software. And then the third session will be Rolf, who will actually bring up the Talentia solution and give you a look, see what the system looks like and all the different things that can be achieved with Talentia. So that's the agenda. Let's get started with looking at some of the challenges that finance teams face today. And I wanted to start off by looking at this from a client's perspective. I'm very fortunate that I spend a lot of time with many different clients. Some of them are already using our solutions and benefiting from it. Others are considering embarking on an implementation, but we get to hear what their challenges are. And across the board, we know that finance teams continue to be under pressure. The monthly close, the quarterly close, the year end, that there's no break from the cycles. In addition to the standard reports that are being provided by finance, stakeholders are seeking ever increasing information. It doesn't get less each month. The demand gets greater. We know that there's general disruption in the marketplace with new competitors, new business models, which forces every business to be agile and analyze its own business more deeply. Surprises can happen. We're just emerging from a pandemic, which threw a lot of change upon everyone. And so with this dynamic, finance teams need to be able to react quickly to support the business in its decision making. So with finance teams under pressure to do this, how can financial systems help them to do that? And we see some key things in that financial systems should provide meaningful reporting. So we know that, you know, financial statements by summarized chart of accounts is the classic way of reporting. But what else does the business need? Does it need to understand by geography, by segment, by product, by distribution channel? So that reporting must be really helpful. It's not just a look at what happened in the past. It's got to be how did it happen and why. It should be rapid too, so business needs to make decisions quickly. So we should be able to get reports in the hands of those that need it quickly. Also the need for ad hoc reporting. So we know we have standardized financial statements every month, but what if the CEO, the CFO wants to explore a particular country, a particular product, and dig deep on that and understand what's going on? We've got to be able to provide additional information. And it should be automated, repeatable, and reducing the manual effort so we can get this information out quickly. So that's, I think Roman will speak to that later on, but this is what we're hearing from our clients. A lot of pressure to get information out, more information out, and we need to get it out quickly. Another perspective that I think is always interesting is to look at what are the experts saying about this space. And we're fortunate in the CPM, corporate performance management. Some people call it EPM, enterprise performance management. But in this space, we have a lot of analyst experts that cover it. It's a big sector of investment in financial systems. And I've just chosen a few here. So there's a very interesting forum led by Gary Simon called the Modern Finance Forum. You'll see that on LinkedIn, some really interesting discussion around financial reporting. And some of his findings, just to talk through a few, were interesting. That if you looked at the ability to complete a regular monthly consolidation within 5 days or a reforecast within 5 days, 34% of those surveyed could complete a consolidation in 5 days, 64% could complete a reforecast. So you're seeing here the forecasting process is ahead of the financial reporting process in terms of speed. The other one was ability to make a minor change to either. So only 51% could make a minor change in financial reporting, 64% could with budgeting and forecasting. So as you'll see that there's been a lot of emphasis on forecasting and planning, and you'll see there seems to be a different vendor for forecasting pop up almost weekly. Whereas the financial reporting is lagged behind a little bit, yet there is tremendous benefit and value behind that financial reporting process. And this is where Talentia comes in. Moving on, another survey, BPM Pulse, another great resource for analytics around this space. 69% of financial professionals still do their financial consolidation in Excel, an on-premise software, or try it in ERP. So that's a lot of people that are not using a dedicated system for their consolidation and also financial reporting. And finally, a survey that Talentia commissioned with Aberdeen. 52% of CFOs believe the decisions they make are not based on reliable data. Now, that's a kind of a shocking statement, but I think we see this all the time when you look at clients. You know, how are they rolling up the data? Who's responsible for the currency conversion? Who's responsible for the mappings? You know, is this true information we're getting? So there's a lot the experts are saying here around financial reporting. I'll let you digest this slide for a moment, this comic strip here, but this is something we hear all the time from our clients. You know, look, we're heads down, we're cranking out the financial reporting in Excel. We haven't got time to put our heads up and address this challenge, the square wheel here. So there is a better way to do it beyond Excel. But what I will say is a lot of companies, and with Talentia, we work with a lot of mid-sized, mid-market companies that really are concerned about the resources required. You know, we've seen a lot of the Fortune 500 can have multiple staff on a project, can have IT lead the project. It can be a 12, 18-month, multi-million-dollar initiative, but for the mid-market, we don't have that luxury. So that deters people, I think, from implementing these systems. And that's why I'm excited to introduce Talentia to you today. So we are a very well-established software company, global, over 3,000 clients using our solutions, so very well established. But what makes us different, I think, is the ability to get these systems implemented fairly quickly without a heavy lift, which suits the mid-market particularly. So why is that? Well, firstly, our solutions are finance owned. So we don't require, heavy investment from consulting or lengthy implementations to get these solutions going. Some require some coding and a lot of things to be built by an external consultant, which really lengthens the project here. We're finance owned, and so the companies themselves can grasp these solutions and leverage them. And that's a lot to do with the fact that we leverage Excel. We know Excel is finance's best friend and the most widely used tool out there. It has its challenges with auditing and reconciliation and such things. So we leverage the good things about Excel, the fact that you know it inside out and you can use it. But we put controls around auditing and who can access and standardizing templates that can't be broken each month. And that really helps our clients because there's a very small learning curve to adapt the system. The other thing that we've achieved is strong consolidation and reporting out of the box. So you shouldn't have to build in currency intelligence to the system. You shouldn't have to work out, how intercompanies are matched. That should be there and available for you in the solution. So we talk about complexity made easier. Our inherent financial intelligence makes that complexity easier. So all these factors allow us to get up and running fast. So we are talking about weeks and not months. And Roman will talk more about his project with Talentia coming up shortly. But it's definitely weeks and not months. And the other thing is here that we at Talentia have experts in this area. So all of our consultants have been implementing financial reporting and consolidation solutions for decades. We understand the challenges with Excel. We understand how to move from Excel to a formal system. So we can help you. We can help you to be efficient and get these systems up and running quickly. The other thing I'd like to say, just before I hand over to Roman here, is the sort of extensibility around Talentia. We find again in the mid-market, clients don't want to implement multiple systems, one for reporting, one for close, one for budgeting. Clients really want to be able to implement one system. One, the cost is much reduced, the investment is reduced if you're implementing one system. The management overhead with one system is much easier. The learning curve is much easier because you've already learned the system. And you can leverage it so the actuals feed the forecast. So it's an efficient way to do things. And that's, I think, the other big thing that's really exciting about Talentia. Not only can we implement quickly for the mid-market and you as finance professionals can run the system yourselves, but it's really broad in what it can achieve. So we'll hear today from Roman and Candela Medical that have implemented Talentia for financial reporting. That's their project. That was their biggest pain. That's where they started. We have other clients that have actually started with budgeting. That was their biggest headache. And others with consolidation and close. So really, you pick your pain point, wherever the greatest need is. Talentia can fix that. And then over time, when you're ready, you can extend it to the other areas, to the other financial processes that you're running as a team. So leveraging all the skills you have, leveraging the fact it's up and running and ready to go, and that you can share the important data between the systems. So, back to Gary Simon's point at the beginning, the financial reporting is lagging behind forecasting, yet it's an essential part of forecasting because you need to know what the actuals are in order to forecast. Put that all together in one system. It may be a different user from FP&A than from the accounting team that's running them, but you're sharing the data and getting the value from that. So really great stuff going on here with Talentia and the mid-market, helping clients get up and running quickly, so you can look up from the square wheels and get away from manual Excel, make these improvements, and deliver on the business needs, which is fast reporting, agile reporting, ad hoc reporting to support the business. So that's what we're about here at Talentia. So very pleased just to give you a quick intro. And with that, I'm very pleased to have Roman join us today. I'll let Roman introduce himself a little bit, but Roman's going to talk us through his background and Candela Medical and what they've been able to achieve with Talentia. So Roman, very pleased to introduce you.
Thanks, Richard. Let me share my screen. Hope everybody can see my screen. And thank you for the introduction, Richard. So my name is Roman. I'm the Global Assistant Controller here at Candela Medical. My primary responsibility lies with financial reporting and consolidation on a month-to-month basis. So just to give you a quick background, just a background snapshot of what we do at Candela Medical. We are a leading global aesthetic medical device company, and we produce a number of devices that treat various indications, various cosmetic and reconstructive indications, such as tattoo removal, hair removal, various port wine stains, so various indications that our devices can treat. We distribute to clinics around the world, to practitioners globally. We have our headquarters in the Boston area with global presence in Europe, Israel, and Asia. So to give a background of our financial systems landscape, so we implemented Oracle Cloud ERP at the end of Q1 of last year, and our financial reporting landscape was quite manual. Everything was being done in Excel, and this included the primary income statement and balance sheet reporting. The process was manual and it was quite involved each month. It involved taking the trial balance out of the system in an Excel format, mapping all of the lines, and this was in the tens of thousands of lines on the trial balance, mapping that to a format that would provide us with a financial statement that we could use every month. This was a process that had to be repeated monthly and oftentimes multiple times during the month end close. As we were fleshing out some of the adjustments, we wanted to see the reports updated. So there are multiple checks built into this Excel file to ensure that we have accurate and consistent reporting. But the process was quite time consuming, and it always carried a risk of error because it was an Excel based process. And I think, as we all know, Excel is not a perfect tool as far as controls. So after we went live with our new ERP system, we began to look for a better solution to improve our financial reporting. And so this brought us to Talentia, and when we were looking for a solution to help us with financial reporting, we had a number of goals kind of going into the process. One of them is we wanted to improve the speed of reporting. We wanted to be able to go from a trial balance to a report very quickly, to remove that manual aspect out of the equation. We wanted to improve repeatability, meaning we wanted to run reports multiple times and not worry about consistent classification of various balances on the trial balance. We also wanted to go live quickly, just on the heels of our many months long implementation of the ERP system. We wanted to go live with a tool in weeks and build out additional capability over time as we became more and more comfortable in the tool. The project team from Talentia helped us sort of understand our requirements, helped us define these requirements. And the way that the process worked was we had provided a trial balance. We had provided our data to the team at Talentia, as well as the reports that we were looking to have the system generate for us. The team worked with us to help define the logic on the back end to make sure that when we load a trial balance that is categorized properly every time. And the team also provided us with training to be able to use the system independently and run it on a month-to-month basis ourselves. We do have the support on hand if needed. There are times when there are certain areas of the system that we haven't used before, and I typically reach out to someone on the team, and I get a response pretty quickly. So the way that we currently utilize the system, our current process is we take a trial balance out of our Oracle system in Excel format, and we upload it directly into Talentia. Talentia validates that upload. So if we have any new segments within our chart of accounts that were created since last upload, the system notifies us that there's a new value that needs to be configured in the system so that we can generate reports out of Talentia. So it runs this validation check, and with all of the mappings on the back end in the system automated, we can produce the reports in minutes. Given the reports are obviously have been created already, we reuse the same template every month to run these reports. We also have an ad hoc analysis function that's available to us to be able to drill down and slice and dice the data in a little bit more in greater detail than our sort of primary financial statements allow us to do. So in summary, again, what the system helped us accomplish was it helped us automate producing financial statements every month. It certainly helped us reduce the amount of effort that it takes for us to produce these statements. We're able to run the statements quickly, and we are comfortable and confident that the numbers are consistent every month, given that the logic has already been pre-configured in the tool. And we have pretty powerful report writing capability to create new reports in the system. It is an Excel-based tool, and so it's a lot of the functionality. With Excel, there's that comfort level that I think we had going into it. That was one of the big pluses, that we were still operating within Excel, but we were able to create these reports with all of the controls and the sort of having a template, a predefined template that directly links with Talentia. And finally, the rapid implementation. The project did not take months. A lot of the delays of the project, all the delays of the project were all on our end. It was all kind of limited by the amount of time that we had to devote on the project. The team was very quick to respond to all of our questions, and all of the times we had sort of running it at our pace. So over time, as we are getting more comfortable using the tool, we are looking to expand our use of the tool. And one of the items that we're looking to improve is automating the upload of data from Oracle to Talentia, getting that data into Talentia in a more automated manner rather than taking the file out of the system and uploading it manually currently. We're also exploring consolidation capabilities, which are currently performed in Oracle, but we're looking to explore that functionality within Talentia. So with that, I'll hand it back over to the Talentia team.
That's great, Roman. Thank you very much indeed for taking us through that very clear explanation there, I think, of how it was before Talentia and how it is now, and how it's made your life a little easier. I know Candela's a great organization. It's doing very well, experiencing a lot of growth, but with that comes a lot of tasks that fall on the finance team. So I'm glad we can help you out in some way. We love working with the guys at Candela, and thanks again, Roman, for sharing that story with us today.
Of course.
And I think now we're on to the third step, which is my colleague Rolf, who's going to actually, take us through this system. What does it look like, and give us a quick flavor of the Talentia solution. So Rolf, delighted for you to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you, Roman, for the introduction that you gave on how Candela is using Talentia CPM to make your life in the finance department hopefully a little bit easier. My name's Rolf. I'm working at Talentia as a consultant in the CPM space, which means that I present and introduce our products to answer the questions coming up in the business-related questions at our customers. And in that capacity, I would like to give you today a short introduction into how Talentia CPM looks, works, and behaves in order to make to build the bridge between the explanations of Richard and Roman. I would like to give you three short foundational pieces of information. One part is, if we talk about performance management software, then we talk about a software that covers a lot of business aspects regarding finance. On the left-hand side of the screen, you see where the data is created, where it comes from, and on the right-hand side, the part where we today focus on more is how it is used, how is it visualized afterwards and brought to those people that are looking for the respective information, be it management, external auditors, internal people looking for more detailed analysis of what's actually going on in our current business. In order to facilitate that part, there are two main pillars. On the left-hand side, what is labeled here as fixed dimensions? That is where that financial intelligence that was mentioned by Richard actually is built into the product, because financial intelligence means we handle everything around finance from that common standpoint where we take care of the actuality of the data, like actuals, budget, forecast, which is then structured into nature and cycles, where we take the time aspect about which year we are in, what kind of cycle do we have, what kind of frequency do we actually use here. Then the portfolio, so the scope that we look at, may be our company structure from a legal perspective, may be our company structure from a management perspective, may be the companies broken up into segments or business units. And then in the next step, the management of the chart of accounts, as well as the list of reporting indicators that we actually need to collect the data to represent the information on the reports that you would like to put out, then the ability to adjust them by adding journals and other entries, and last but not least, the handling of currencies. So that part, as I said, is covering the financial intelligence part, but this part is normally not telling the full story. So we have to extend it. We have to get it. We have to introduce more deeper granular, or a higher granularity actually, and we also have to give it more meaningful details. And that is happening by the ability to create your own data model, which is then connected to the fixed dimensions, by introducing new dimensions to define, oh, we would like to work with products, with cost centers, with regions, break it down to sales team or to single employees. We would like to have sites included, or we would like to have a project-oriented reporting part. And based on those dimensions, or in addition to those dimensions, we can also then add characteristics and attributes. For example, what kind of cost center is it? Is the product blue, green, red? From which product line it comes, etc. So that we can really define a data model, which then supports at the end the data structure that you need for the reporting. And when we then look quickly at the process flow that we have to support in order to get from data collection to the output at the end, then independently, if we talk about now financial consolidation, simple financial reporting, or budgeting and planning, we need to collect data. The data has to be correct and reconciled. Comments have to be entered potentially, and it has to be ready for local reporting as well. Then the adjustment goes on. If it is financial consolidation, then it's normal steps about currency conversions, allocations, intercompany eliminations, capital and investment eliminations, the calculation of key figures on the consolidated level, as well as the application of the compliance controls to actually have the sufficient information to fulfill the requirements that our auditors bring at the end of the year to check if everything's correct. If we would replace that one with the budgeting part or with a simple allocation and adjustment section for financial reporting, no problem, because the kind of adjustments that we do here is fairly open. And last but not least, the visualization, getting it out, creating report books, detailed analysis, giving access interactively or on request to receive reports and information. So that's basically what we do cover in Talentia. So in order to do that, people need access to the system. Access to the system they do get by getting a URL provided. The URL provided leads them to the logon page of the system. The logon can either happen or can either happen by entering user ID and password or being a single sign-on which is connected to your Active Directory or Azure AD service, for example. So if I log on, then I get to select one of the models that is currently available on my Talentia system, because different models can be entered for different purposes, because there are different responsible persons there that would like to have their own data area. So if I log on to one of those, then what we see is a management dashboard popping up, because that's the basic information that we would like to show our users when they come in, depending on the user role. And on the left-hand side, what we have here is then the ability to choose between two kinds of menus. One is the standard menu. That is common in every application. That is where you find all those options to configure it, to set it up, to maintain it, etc., etc. As I said before, we take care of whatever is required to handle financial information correctly and extend it then to also include non-financials for a meaningful and complete reporting process. So we take care of time, of currencies, of the economic units, and then also of those additional business dimensions that I mentioned before, those 3 dimensions, where I said you can create your own dimensions. Yes, so you see the list. You as a user, with administrative rights in the system, are allowed then to add a new dimension and just say, oh, I would like to have also my sales teams as a structure in my system. So I add the business dimension for the sales teams. I then switch over into the list of indicators and reportings, where I have my chart of accounts and list of reporting indicators, and say they do have to produce for me a weekly sales forecast. So if I have then those indicators as well added, then the people are then also able to deliver the information to extend my financial reporting by the weekly sales report, including a weekly sales forecast for the current quarter, for example. If everything is then pulled together, then it goes into the direction of data output and analysis. But instead of working through all those classical menus, we also have the ability to create menus or access structures according to the requirements of a specific customer or a specific user group. Because here we can then put together those functionalities which are required to support a specific process. Like, let's start getting data. In the data collection part, people can upload data. Data can also be actually pulled seamlessly from source system, your ERP, your data warehouse. That happens in the background. In the background, there is the ability to either say, we deliver data using an ETL process because we have one in place, or we can actually go in there and then also show we can go in there and create the ability that people can upload information through a web gateway, which is then automatically imported. But if there are new acquisitions, new teams, new fields of reporting, there we offer then the interactive ability to upload data by giving the ability to choose a file from my local system and choose the input specification to upload the information. In addition to that part, because not all the information that we normally need might actually be available in an electronic format already, we then have the extension and also the control checks ready to actually have the delivering people make adjustments to the imported data and also make adjustments and extending the information, for example, by comments or by calculated market shares or by other information which is not readily available. In order to support the part where we see how we stand with the data gathering part, we have here that little workflow component where we see the status of each company, and then also have the link into the data entry forms where people can add data. But as we are today talking about financial reporting, we switch over to the analytics and reporting part, because that is where we reuse the functionality to enter data, for example, to produce reports. And if we look now at that part, we have then the output sections. In the output sections, you can create your own reports and place them into a meaningful structure so that people see actually what they have, what kind of report and report books they have open or they have available to open. If you open such a report book, then you get actually access to a familiar environment, because the designing element, the designer to create reports, is actually Microsoft Excel for this part. And in Microsoft Excel, we can then create different statements like a balance sheet, the profit and loss statement, an overview of the segment information, my tangible asset schedule, etc., so that we have then all the details readily available and repeatably to be produced by selecting the scope and the context that we would like to see the data for. If you have the data in and we create reports, then we also have the ability not only to look at them into that classical Excel-oriented format where we define the context and see the data, but we also have the ability to actually look at the information from a more interactive standpoint. And built-in OLAP Navigator gives us the ability, when we talk about dimensions, then also to look at the dimensions, look at the data from a dimensional standpoint or from a dimensional perspective. So I can create here the views. I prepare the view and just take my P&L, pull it up and say, okay, that's my starting view. In my starting view, I do have my P&L represented with actuals, budget, calculation of the difference, the visual indicators where I roughly stand in comparison between actuals and budget. And as you can see, I have a context set at the top. I can change the context. I can change the context by opening up a pop-up, selecting 2019, having no data in that year, going back to 2020, having data in there. I can also go and say, oh, I would like to see my gross sales or my whole P&L by department. So where does the data come from that are currently presented in my P&L on my screen? Can drag that one out again. So I can interact with the data very dynamically and create my own views, or take a starting view and drill down into detail, drag in additional details to have a further split, get into a higher or lower granularity level to see the information that I look at, as well as expand it, for example, for the whole year, so that I see each month next to each other, so that it gets then extended to the right. I can check February, March, etc., or switch then between the January summary to the actuals to compare then actuals by month. In addition to that interactive view, there's then very often also the requirement, oh, we've got Excel reports, we have the interactive view, but now we also have to produce an output in Word, because we've got management or external reports where we do have to create documents which are actually linked to which are then actually linked to our database, so that they can be refreshed and updated if the data changes. That part I would like to show you rather in the design mode, so that you can see creating reports is not a lot of programming, it's not a lot of coding, it's actually going into the application, opening up the respective document here, and then in the respective part of your Microsoft Office, be it Excel or be it Word, defining then the reports that you would like to see. Similar to the view that we had on running the Excel report, we here also see that we open up the respective Office program, and in addition to the Office program, we then have the ability to define, or in this Office program, we have then the ability to define context information. This context information is guided by the control panel on the left-hand side. In this control panel, we have two sections. One section defines the document context, so parameters and selections which are valid for each page of the document, or we have then the ability to select or to create or define bookmark context. This bookmark context means that whenever I embed information that I pull from my Talentia CPM solution into the document, then the context defines what has to be shown when I run it. So here I just have the simple representation of the year. On the left-hand side, I defined, show me business year code. If I go further down, I see other embedded marks, where those embedded marks refer, for example, also to my existing Excel reports to pull the data from there. If I then want to see the result, I can just do it here as a preview, where the document is then generated and the data is updated with the content of the system from the background based on the dimensional structure that I created, and where I do get, as a result, then the report with the references filled depending on the format I've chosen. It is then shown according to my corporate guidelines. It also shows me always what kind of context it pulled, so that they can recognize if the data is really correct and where it comes from. And then I can simply publish a finalized report with always up-to-date data, and to ensure that my gross sales, independently of where they are embedded in the text, are always the same number, without having to go through 30 or 40 or 50 pages and then just look at where is gross sales mentioned. It's mentioned in the summary, it's mentioned in the description of the variation that we had the previous year, it's mentioned in the outlook, it's mentioned in the P&L. So for different places where when I change something on the data side, I would have to make adjustments if I would do it manually. So those are the basic components that make up the ability of Talentia CPM to enhance and speed up the financial reporting process. I hope you had a quick introduction from my side, and that gives you a flavor. If you would like to have any further introduction or any closer look at it, no problem. Just give us a call and we would like to go ahead with you into further exploring the abilities of Talentia CPM. So I guess I can hand over back to Richard for some final statements or questions to be answered.
That's great, Rolf. Thank you very much for taking us through a couple of things there. That was a live demo, which is always exciting with an audience. And Rolf, that was flawless. And you also managed to cover so many different aspects that we can cover from the financial reporting. You touched on the close and consolidation there as well, which is great. And I think you showed the interface, the Excel, and the familiarity for finance teams. So very good. Thanks very much for that, Rolf. We're pushing against time here, but we do have a few questions. So mostly actually for Roman. So Roman, I'm going to ask a couple of questions. I'm going to combine two of the questions here together for speed. So first, how long did the project take at Candela Medical? And secondly, how frequently do you produce financial statements?
Yep. So how quickly we take to implement it took us, I would say, probably a couple of months, and that's mainly because of the just the time limitations that we had. We had a number of internal initiatives that were kind of concurrent with this project, and so just given the time constraints, it took us a bit longer. I can certainly see it going live in a matter of weeks instead of months like we did. As far as the frequency of reporting, we have a monthly cadence of financial reporting.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Roman. And a couple more here. So what was the hardest part of the project for you?
The hardest, I would say, definitely defining the logic for rolling up to the lines of the financial statements. We had a logic sort of built into Excel, but translating that and moving that over to Talentia, just adapting it, took a little bit of work. I wouldn't say it was incredibly complicated. It was just a process that had to be done methodically to ensure that we got sort of the comfort over the statements that were being produced.
So sort of mostly a one-time effort, and once that work was done, then you could roll with that, other than sort of ongoing changes that pop in.
Right. It was the initial sort of effort, and then on an ongoing basis, as we make changes to our chart of accounts, it's just a matter of just implementing or updating that one segment, whether it's a GL account or a project code or a new cost center that we create. So once that initial lift is done, it's just maintenance.
Okay, perfect, good. And just one more. So, you've got a lot of tasks on your daily plate here, and this comes from someone that obviously is concerned about their time to implement a project. So how much of your time did it take, Roman? How much did you have to carve out of your daily tasks to put the new system in?
Yeah, I would say it was definitely probably several hours on a weekly basis. We had a number of touch points with the team at Talentia, where a lot of the work and a lot of the heavy lifting initially was done by the team at Talentia. So we would meet, we would make sure that we're all on the same page and kind of what we're trying to achieve with the logic that was provided. Then we would connect again, review the logic, run the reports to see if we're getting the same result, provide feedback, and have that kind of feedback loop. So it was definitely probably several hours on a weekly basis to connect with the team, to kind of go at it methodically and on a step-by-step sort of basis.
Okay, no, that's great. That's very helpful. And I think that's one thing I'd emphasize here with these projects. Clients are not on their own. We have a team of consultants that do this day in, day out. They know what to look for, what needs to be done. So we provide the guidance, we provide the structure, we can do some of the heavy lifting as well, as Roman said, depending on your resources. So we can really lighten the load with our implementation consultants for these projects. And I think there's a couple here for me. So what makes Talentia stand out from the competition? It's a great question. I think a lot of the things we covered today around, Talentia is really aimed at the mid-market for companies that want to put these systems in weeks, not months. There are solutions out there from mostly, large companies for the Fortune 500 that just take a long time and a lot of thought. They're a bit more complicated. Mid-market companies don't really have the time, resources for that. And that's where Talentia really fits that space well, so we can implement quickly. Mid-market companies can own this solution themselves. They can leverage their Excel skills. So it's really speed to put it in and the independence for mid-market companies to run this. And of course, tie that in with not only can we do the financial reporting, we can do the consolidation, we can do the budgeting. So why invest in multiple technologies, when you could have one? So I think that's a quick summary. Final question here was, how long would a typical consolidation project take? But that's a good question. Again, it's weeks, not months. You know, we've seen people implement a consolidation solution in 8 to 10 weeks. There's always variables. How prepared is the client? How much change is there from how they're doing it today to how they want to do it in the future? What's the rollout look like? What's the availability of resources? These are all questions when we put a plan together with you. But definitely, you know, a quarter, 3 months is very achievable for a consolidation project, and can be significantly less as well. Great. Well, thank you very much for those questions. I appreciate the interaction there. Want to just close out by thanking my fellow speakers. Roman, thanks for taking time out of your daily duties to share your implementation of Talentia. That was very clear, very insightful. Thank you for that. We appreciate that. And to Rolf, that was you showed a lot in a short period of time, and that was very clear. So Rolf, thank you again for your demonstration, bringing us to the solution to life and seeing it live and what it actually looks like. So thank you, Rolf.
You're welcome.
Great. So thanks to our audience. Really appreciate everyone hopping on. We're here to help. Please reach out to us if you'd like to just explore what a project might look like. If you have questions, anything you'd like to know, we're here to help. So please reach out. Thanks to everybody, and hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks very much, and I'll close out the session.